Hi.
Hi.
We're back.
We're back.
You miss us?
I missed you.
Right?
But, huh?
I'm Chris.
I'm Kara.
We're the Midnight Babes.
Down at some point.
You know?
Also, if we don't, that's more giggles for us. And
know.
Y'all can laugh at us. We can't hear you. We don't care.
This is how we are. And we've been recording for a bit, so
we're getting a little caffeinated. Yeah. I'm stressed out about all these fucking cracked doors and shit. Going for more.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yep. So today we are doing a book review. It's called The Exorcist House by Nick Roberts.
Yep, Nick
I'm
Roberts.
Correct. I will say I am a very big fan of how Nick writes, and I will be reading more. I really, really enjoyed
his writing style.
This is my first book that I've read from Nick.
Agreed.
It was great.
Yes.
I gave this one a high rating. I felt creeped out. I didn't want to read it at night.
Same.
I felt like someone was watching me. And how... We've mentioned this before, how we read, it's like a movie in our head.
Yeah.
This gave me like 90s possession horror movie.
Yeah.
It has some, it has some like comedy and some certain, like a little fun. But how...
It was pretty dark.
Yes, it was dark. And how he wrote the spooks in it.
Good.
It was really good. It gave me goosebumps.
It's hard for me to read. Like, I love thrillers.
Yes, you're more of a thriller.
It's hard for me to read a scary book because it takes me longer to get through it. And, like, sometimes by then I'm like, it's kind of like lost. I didn't feel that way with this book.
This one was...
I didn't want to put it down until it was dark. And then I was like, it's going down.
I cannot read this at night.
I cannot read this at nighttime.
Yep, for when I was reading this one, I could only really read it at night. So I was getting a lot more spooky. Girl. And like I said, my son has been sleep talking. So I'm like, shut up!
I'm gonna dangle a rosary over you, just like the well in the book.
I'm not even Christian, so I don't even have... I have zero crosses. I don't have nothing. I am relying on my gods.
On my gods.
Please don't murder me.
I love the way the author, because he plays from so many like POVs.
Yes.
And so many different like points of view. He seamlessly moved through them. There was never a point where
confused.
I was like, who are we? Okay.
Yep.
Or like if it wasn't like from their POV, it was like third party. Like he's telling
like the narrator.
Yeah, so it was done really well.
Yes.
I was impressed by that, especially when we really started to add in characters. I was like, oh my god, don't be like, what was that Stephen King book that was like had like 70 characters?
Oh my god, wasn't that like The Stand?
The Stand, yeah. I'm like, dude, you can't expect me to keep track of 45 characters. No,
it's not happening.
It's not happening. And in here we have the Exorcist that lived there, which
Merle.
is Merle. Yep. Okay, so we've got Merle, and then we kind of touch on Carmine, who does some construction on the house, but that's
along with Roy and Miles, like they're all the construction crew.
Yep. So and that's little touches.
Yeah.
And then we hear about Daniel.
Yep. Which the father.
Yep. Who's moving into the farmhouse. Yep. Nora is the mother, the wife. Alice, their 15-year-old daughter, and then Nora is also pregnant. Yeah. So those are really the only characters you have to keep track of. Well, and Luke. We
can't forget about Buck.
Yeah, Buck.
Buck the dog.
Buck. He's so cute.
Yeah. That dog, man.
I mean, actually, he don't sound cute. He sounds vicious, but he's sweet.
Well, he's a bloodhound.
Yeah.
He's adorable.
I know. But the way they make, I'm like,
Yeah, I felt bad. But thankfully, just letting y'all know, nothing happens to Buck.
Buck survives.
Buck's okay.
Buck's okay.
Made me happy. I was worried there for a little bit. I love us not animals. So I was worried for Buck. No, Buck is really great. So we kind of start off with the opening of the book is with Merle.
The prologue.
And, like, what's happening. And so it's Merle and Buck. They're outside. And
sitting
Merle's
down in the grass.
And he's just smoking. He's like, all right. Like, just getting prepared for something. He's telling Buck, like, you stay outside. Whatever you hear, you stay outside.
You stay out here.
And Buck stayed outside.
And he even tells Buck, if I don't come back, help yourself to the chickens.
And he does.
Yeah, I mean, and we kind of see, like, you know, before Merle's out there, like, he's seeing things. Like, every knife is stuck in his ceiling, right? He is like, oh, shit.
Something's going on.
It lets us know that, like, he's dealt with this before, by what we're reading. But he's unnerved that it's happening in his own home. I thought it was interesting that he had holy water in the fridge that he dropped the bullets into.
Smart man.
Very smart. You know, we kind of even get background on Merle in the prologue with like how his son died and how his wife died and how like these demons are presenting themselves as such to him.
Yep.
I mean, we're jumping like right in, and it's like fucked up. You're like, oh my god, this poor old man.
Yep.
And he's seeing his dead son, and he's
hearing
seeing
his
dead wife, and he sees her dangling from like the foot of the bed.
Yep.
I thought it was interesting, you know, the way they bring it in, and the way they like introduce Merle, and you know the house going down. He ends up dying in the bedroom in fire, and it's located only
in the bedroom.
Like the rest of the house doesn't catch fire, which is fucking weird, but
okay. And that's where you kind of learn a little bit more about Carmine and his construction crew because they come in and fix it.
Yep. And you know, like we kind of hear about Carmine and them fixing it, and Carmine is very uncomfortable with this basement. And we do learn he nailed that basement shut. Carmine was fucked up about it. He nailed it shut and then nailed a cross into the door. Yeah. If I were to move into a home,
nope,
and I see that a door is nailed shut and
there's a cross on it,
I'm actually gonna go buy another door and put it on top of that door, and then do the same thing again. Okay, or I'm gonna have them demolish that part of my house completely.
Yeah, or you know, just fucking
move. I don't know. I was like, I guess when, you know, they kind of like made light of it, Daniel and Nora, when they move in, I was like, I think they're probably there for a reason.
Yeah, they're like, oh, what was going on here?
But we hear from Carmine, you know, at the house, how it's uncomfortable, how he like smells the rotten eggs, how it's like humid in the basement. Basements are supposed to be cooler. Like, we're confused about that. And like 2 weeks later, after finishing the project, they're working on another one, and like there's lots of careless accidents. Like, he confides in his employee that he feels like he saw something evil watching
like
him.
Like the eyes.
And he ain't been right since. He's now scared of the dark. Fucking A. Sleeping with all the lights on. Yep.
But even that, he resorts to drinking.
Yeah, trying to drink his fears away. It's not working. I mean, the last we really hear of Carmine is like he's drunk and like falling asleep in his hotel room with all the lights on, and you know, like the old school like vents and like the bathroom and shit, and they got the slits, you can see like the orange eyes, and that fucked with me too, because as a kid I used to always be scared that like somebody was like watching me through those, and like I could nenever pinpoint where that fear has come from. Like,
it's
I don't know,
the unknown. You don't know what's in the vents.
up there, like. So that kind of fucked with me. I mean, he dies. I mean, we find out that Carmine just dies in the closet with glass in his eyeballs.
Yeah, with screaming, and that's where Roy
runs in and finds him.
And he's like, "What the hell?" And,
So then, like, just to like close out the construction crew, Roy comes to the farmhouse later and warns the people who have moved here, Daniel and Nora, about what has happened. He spills the whole beans and the enchilada. Does not care if he sounds cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Which, good for him.
Good for him. Because he's like, well, I'm no longer working for Carmine because Carmine is dead. But I wanted to let you know this is kind of what happened.
This is what's happened. So I guess we could start by like then talking about Daniel. And Nora. Again with the private practice therapy here. Yep. Works in the psychology field. It's in the 90s, so giving you that 90s vibe. An extreme introvert, but comments that therapy makes really good money. Yeah. I don't know. So I thought that was funny. And yeah, he's wanting to flip this 30-acre farm. Yep. So that's why they moved from the city in Ohio out to this farm. Yep. You know, we again learn about Merle through Roy, the construction worker. Yep. Nora and Daniel are kind of like, okay, like,
sorry for your loss.
Is what it is. And you know, things start to, I mean, they're fine, right? Like, Nora's pregnant. They've got a 15-year-old daughter. Like, Nora doesn't necessarily love the news that they're living in an exorcist house, but like goes along with this, you know. I mean, she helps Daniel clean out the basement. They find women's clothes, creepy ass metal chains and crates, and this tiny like little door.
And that's what's given like the real creepy vibes. They're like, I don't know about this. Yes. And she's like, okay, have you? But then Daniel gets like obsessed
with what is down there. I mean, I put like, God bless this man for cleaning this place when he's home alone.
I know.
Because I'm like, you wouldn't catch me.
He's going there home like
daylight, home alone with somebody. No, it would not be happening for me.
No, but I will say with like Nora, she wasn't happy about moving out there so far away, but also she's running from her own problems.
She has dreams. I mean, she keeps waking up at like 3:10 in the morning, which I was like, of course.
They're
but she's like having dreams of her affair with like her ex-boss.
Yep.
So that was weird. I was just like, is this the demon? Like, or is this like more of her conscience?
I feel like
it could have been either, and I don't know if it was escalated because of where she was, or because maybe she was pregnant. I'm not sure.
It could go either way, or it could be combined.
That's true. So like when Daniel and Nora move in, there's like no farm animals. Like the chickens are gone, so we can assume maybe Buck ate them.
Yep.
You know, and then we get like the neighbor boy that comes by, Luke. And Luke is like, I've always done like the yard work for Merle and like taking care of like the lambs and the sheep. And the daughter Alice is kind of like, where are they all at?
Yeah.
And I still wonder if that was Buck or if that was the entities in the home.
Yeah, I feel like the chickens were definitely Buck.
Because that was made clear. If I don't come back, you can have the chickens. Yep. But everything else, I was like, now I got questions.
Yeah.
Was it the dog? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if Buck took care of the others, but I feel like he really did take care of the chickens. But also funny is like, you know, Luke comes up and Alice is out there on the swing that she just put up. Yeah. Because she's like, I can do this. I was like, good for you, girl. Problem. Go for it. And then, of course, she has googly eyes for Luke. Thinking he's a year older than her.
Yeah, he's like 17. Yeah. She's 15.
So, but then Luke's trying to be nice. Wants to take her out.
Yes. He's like, I want to take you four-wheeling.
It's cute. City girl.
Which, okay, that was interesting because he takes her to like this magical waterfall at night. Like, why would you take me to a waterfall at night?
Yeah.
That like leads into a swimming hole. And then Alice is like, well, let's go in the swimming hole. Isn't that why you brought me here? And he gets all like iffy and like sketched out. And it's like, no. And I know why now. At the end of the book he got sketched out, but that like really
at first you're like, me. So why are you with her? Like it kind of like, are you just trying to be nice?
Yeah, or like what's going on here? Are you trying to
flirt, or you just have issues of your own? So I liked how that progressed.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Luke comes into play. Like, he really turns into, like, helping the family here. Because he's been kind of watching. I mean, he's been working on the lands. Like, Daniel can't get this kid to leave. Like, this kid is a workhorse.
No.
Like,
and well, then Buck does not like him.
Barks at him.
What I find is funny is that, yes, Buck was never really a fan, but he progressively gets worse. And that comes into play
later on.
Later on.
We find out why.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting, you know, Nora, like, wakes up during a storm.
Yep.
She's lured to the basement by Steve, her love affair, which obviously it's not Steve. It's a fucking demon. Mm-hmm. She thinks that it's here to, like, answer her prayers.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, girl. I found it really disturbing. Like, this thing, aka Steve, they described it as like a phallic helicopter device.
Yeah.
To insert to get rid of the baby.
Yeah.
And she is about to turn this shit on in the basement. And Luke turns on the light and is like, stop.
Go. No, he doesn't have a light. He had his flashlight.
His little flashlight with the tape that makes a cross. And he was like, we gotta go. And she seems to like come to a bit. Like,
and she's like, it's more like a hanger.
Yeah,
you know,
it's like a hanger that she was putting up. But it was interesting that he saved her.
Yeah.
And they have like a combo out on the porch too after that, which was interesting.
Like, I can tell you more about what's happened. Like, he starts opening up of like why he's around so much is because he knew Merle. He knew what Merle was doing because of Luke's girlfriend. Who is no longer
Amelia,
with us.
I believe her name
was. So he's about to tell Nora all this, but then some shit kind of goes down. He's like, I will be back.
I'll be back.
But what he was saying is like, I've been watching this house ever since Merle died. And I saw you guys move in. So he's been keeping track. And he's not going back home.
He's staying up in the woods where I can see your house.
With the binoculars.
Yeah.
So that's how he knew something was going on.
And he's like, but not creepy. No, to keep you safe. Because, you know, it kind of mentions in the book, like, his dad's a drunk and he's never home. And at one point he takes Alice to his house.
That wasn't him. That wasn't him. So.
Oh.
That wasn't him.
Oh, that's right. Because when he goes up after the storm... He lost his flashlight and he can't get rid of it.
So he's always had this flashlight that Merle gave him because
if you shine it,
and it has the cross, it'll
make the
whether you believe or not is what Merle says.
You have to believe that it'll work for it to work and get rid of them.
Yes. So
he has nothing to protect him.
No. So now with everybody being in there, they're feeding off of them, you know, in that fear way. They're getting stronger.
The family's like losing time. Like hours are going by. I mean, like we're waking up in the middle of the night. Yeah. Like we're falling down the stairs. We're having dreams and shit. Like, I mean, there's like a lot that goes on that's like fucked up.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess before we talk about Luke and Alice, Daniel really finds this, like, he goes through that small door in the basement.
Finds the chest.
He finds the chest and then he finds this well that's covered up. And this dumbass uncovers the well.
There's a rosary hanging above it. Like, what are you doing?
What are you doing? It's like in a basement, in a door, within a door. Leave it covered. Okay. I just don't. And maybe something like was urging him to uncover it. I don't know. He, you know, uncovers it. The rosary's like yanked into the well in front of his eyes. He knows something bad is going on. Like, he's away. Mm-hmm.
Pulls the chest up.
Gets the chest up. Starts digging through it. Is losing time. He thinks he's been there for like 15 minutes.
It's
been
like
hours. 4 fucking hours. He finds journals, camcorders, holy cross, holy water, cross, gun, and VHS tapes.
Yep.
Daniel spends like a lot of time going through the journals to the point where like he's just drinking and not going to work. And Nora's like, what the hell?
He's like, I gotta figure this out with everything that's been going on.
And Nora's dealing with her own shit. She drives back home to be like, I forgive you for having an affair with me and I forgive myself. And we're like, what the fuck is the point of that? I didn't get that.
No, like I said, I think it was more of like to clear her conscience. Mm-hmm. But come on.
And I will say, like, as like the spirits are feeding, Daniel gets pretty aggressive with Alice. I mean, it's clear that this is not, or with Nora, this is not himself, right?
Yeah.
So that's interesting. Like, we understand you're reading through these intense journals, but like, bro. we do hear about Alice and Luke. Yep. Luke is like, I'm going to take you swimming. But as we discussed, it's not Luke. It's another demon. They apparently can be whoever they want you to be, right? Yes. Nora saw hers as Steve. Like, even Merle at the beginning saw his wife, Gertie. Like, they clearly can appear for whoever they want you to be.
Yeah. Well, I feel like at that point, with taking him up to the waterfall, I believe that was Luke, because he drives her home. But then he goes back
for the mom, and then that's when the thunderstorm happens, and he goes back up to the house, and that's when he's like, I don't have my flashlight.
Yeah, well, no, he goes to his tent in the woods. His house. And then demon comes.
Gone. So then he's like,
I tell you what, my jaw dropped with how that happened. Like, how that read out. Like, dang, I was not expecting that. But then after that, when Luke comes around, that's not Luke. That's when Buck starts getting more aggressive.
Alice even noticed he's pale and calmy and irritable.
Luke's like, let me go show you my house.
Okay.
And then some shit goes down.
Which was all just creepy shit. I mean, we've got like fucking blubbering skin, fucking... This thing's like a flesh blanket at one point.
Luke kills his dad.
Yeah, like Luke. Alice's parents go to confront Luke, and he's in their kitchen, and Alice is like, don't look at him. Yeah. Like, he's a flesh blanket.
Yeah. Because Alice was able to run home, be like, what the fuck?
Yes. So they're starting to, like, put things together, especially as Daniel's been, like, reading the novels. Yeah. And we'd heard Luke talk about Amelia. Yeah. And then we see the
very last tape
is of Amelia.
Being possessed.
And trying to be exorcised by Father Martin, who worked with Merle. Yeah. Because Merle was trained by a father. Even though, and like he traveled with these two exorcist priests. Yes. Even though he was not a priest himself, they were like, that's okay as long as you like believe. Yeah. And
showed him all the ways. And so he started doing home visits and being his own. Yes. To help with these situations, because that's what happened to his wife and son.
I will say, like, that creature, Luke's creature, that like chased her. Yes. And like drug her in the house by her scalp. Yes. And her parents were like, Alice, are you home? And it was like, yes. It like answered for her. Yeah. I was just like uncomfortable about that whole thing.
And like, because that whole time, that's when she ran away from Luke's place, was going through the woods. It chased her, killed her, but through that whole woods scene, I was like, damn.
Dude, it was well written. It was intense.
Just clumping up the stairs and just went straight to the room and nothing else.
It was fucked up, man.
Yes. Yeah. Some of the scenes, I was like, oh my God.
For real, though, I was like, oh my goodness.
It really had me like on my toes. I'm like, oh my God, are they going to survive?
Are they even going to live?
Alice be dead.
Yeah. So.
Well, no. She was just scalped.
She was just scalped. She was just hurt pretty badly.
She was possessed in that way.
So I guess like, once everybody's at the house, they decide this is what we need to do. They watch the VHS tapes. Yeah. And they kind of see what happened with Amelia
and Merle.
And Amelia.
And Luke. Luke was there.
And Gertie, Merle's wife. Yeah. We find out that she ends up like, they lose their son, and this is traumatic for Gertie, and she leans into like the occult. Yep. And holds a seance in their basement, and they end up like opening some sort of portal,
and that's where the well.
Right. So like we do learn that at the end of the book, which is interesting because we're kind of like, how did all of this happen? Anyways, like we know it's coming from the basement and the well, but like what triggered this? Yeah. So I found that interesting. Merle realizes the well was the path and the seance and the evil lived in. He started research before tackling the basement, like his extensive exorcism research. And we even see Merle come back at one point.
Yeah, to like help Daniel save Alice
together. Which Daniel was not like really in the like mind frame at that point, but it does come back to him. Yep. So we see their exorcism, how it went with Amelia. Amelia does not survive.
No.
It's a botched exorcism.
Yeah. Because Luke couldn't handle it.
Yep. And Merle's last words were like, Luke needs to pick up where I've left off. And they kind of do. Yeah. I mean, so it's interesting that, like, Luke's a ghost. Yeah. Kind of, and is helping them, and Merle's a ghost, and let's put this evil at bay. Yeah.
Like, it needs to end.
Like, now. Now, I did have questions, like, regarding how that was going to be done. Yeah. I guess, because, okay, I have a lot of questions. Were there multiple demons? It didn't seem like just one to me.
Yeah, I agree.
Especially with it being like a portal that goes both ways. It would, and I don't know.
I think at the very end, it was more of that one
orange-eyed demon.
But I feel like there was like kind of multiple, because how are you going back and forth?
That's what I'm saying.
Possessing. But who knows? I'm not a demonologist.
Yes. I was also confused with Luke being a ghost. Mm-hmm. Because I was like, when did he turn into a ghost? But it was when he got killed.
In the tent. Yeah. Because I feel like it's because he had so much still left to do. It's like you have that energy.
Yes. I wondered how Nora's baby was not yet possessed, as we're like reading along and they're like closing things off. I'm like, well, how?
Oh no!
Before the end, I was like, but what about the baby? Like, if they tried to like get like I had questions. And they answered them.
Yes. But at the time you're like,
how'd she get off scot-free? You know, like, and we do find out, you know, they come back, they go pick up the baby from daycare, and they pull up, and there's like lights and sirens and shit, and people are fucking crying and like bleeding on the floor, like the teachers.
Someone gets the scissors to the face.
Yeah, so apparently this teacher, like, fell on scissors in the infant room where they don't keep scissors. Alice goes back to school, resumes a normal life. Nora's, like, teaching. Daniel's back at therapy. The baby's name is Marin. Yeah. Because this is what made me wonder. Nora fell into the well. Yeah. And we wondered, it was like alluded to, like, was the baby touched? Like, did something happen? So that's when I was like, what?
Because the demon was like, that's my baby.
That's my baby, not yours. So I guess that's when I was like, what happened? Because they don't really answer that until we're like,
they needed to wait for the baby to be born.
Yeah, we're like back on track. We're back at school. We're back to work. And they go into the daycare. The teacher's been stabbed.
Like, all these babies are crying.
Except theirs. Marin. Her name is Marin.
And Nora's like, this baby.
Mm-hmm. And she's just snoozing and like very warm to herself. And Alice thought to herself, pandemonium. Yeah. One would assume the baby did that. I mean, that's
exactly how, when I was reading, I'm like, baby did it. Baby has powers.
And then at the very end, we see Nora sees herself hanging behind Daniel, like 10 years into the future. So that even, like, confirms for me that, like, the baby was possessed. Oh, yeah. Because 10 years in the future, it's going to fuck you up enough to kill yourself. Yeah. So. Yeah. This book.
It was really good.
It was really good. It was scary. Yeah. It was thought-provoking. I could not read it at night.
I kept feeling like someone was watching me. Just how he wrote, how these demons were.
Yeah.
Latching on and
like
looking and
scratching, like the noises they make. Like, I just was like,
and it's worse because like we deal with raccoons at my house, and so I hear them and I was like, ah,
you're like,
I'm gonna die.
The final demon form. Yeah. It was like 8 foot tall, red eyes with like giant fangs, and had an appetite for unborn flesh, as they called it. That's the one that pulled her into the well. But I was like, man, how are you going to come out of this? I don't know.
You really didn't.
I don't know. I mean, I do want to know also how a damn flashlight with the duct tape and some belief could make a demon go poof. Do I need to put one next to my bed?
You believe. I don't know.
It was good.
That's what it was giving me more of like the 90s, like
Yes.
You know?
The flashlight. And it does say it's in 1994. So, like, I'm okay with that, right? Yeah. Like, I mean, we got people ringing the doorbell, right? Yeah. Because Daniel's like, stop ringing the doorbell in the morning. And I'm like, those are the days. God. Nobody rings my doorbell anymore.
I don't even answer the door.
Me neither. I'm like, nobody's
we're millennials. We duck.
We just duck and hide. And I'm like, hold still.
Why are you showing up at my house?
Nobody knows we're home. Okay.
Text me.
But we will be reading another book by Nick Roberts.
Yes.
Any suggestions? DM us.
Yep.
Any like thoughts or takes that you had on the book too?
Yeah.
DM us. I thought it was
great. I gave this one like 5 out of 5. I really enjoyed this book.
And again, I'm not like a spooky book person. I love spooky movies. The books hit or miss, but his writing had me engulfed. If I was not so scared to read it at night, I probably would have read it in like 24 hours. Yeah. But because I had to like keep my Kindle in the other room at nighttime,
I got this one pretty quick.
I was like, no. Yeah. I need to wait till daytime. No way.
I was just going.
But it was a fairly short book. It was to the point. There wasn't a bunch of extra like bullshit other than the shit with Steve with the affair. But I feel like there's a reason for that, and I just am maybe not understanding.
Yeah. I to me it was just, she needs to get over it. And that's how she can do it.
I don't know.
And then move on. But that was the only part where I was just like, okay, yeah, whatever. But fluff. Everything else
was like very important or like very spooky or very well done. I mean, again, trigger warnings. We should have probably touched on these first.
Oh, you know.
Gore, suicide, exorcism stuff.
Yeah.
Like, can we just...
almost abortion, like...
Yeah, like that should be on there too. I mean, if that kind of stuff makes you uncomfortable. Yeah. I mean, again, she is stopped.
But it's that
feeling of what's happening.
It was about to happen.
I put don't read this book in the dark and fuck cracked doors and closets, man.
Every time.
I think if maybe it wasn't in this like door in the basement within a door. Yeah. Maybe I would have been so, I don't know. Maybe but not. Still, that was part of the scares for me. It was part of the fun. And it's always like
in the basement where it's like, it's already creepy already.
Yeah, and they described it as like almost like a dungeon style basement because they had like those chains against the wall, which we find out were then like coated in holy water to tie Amelia down. But like, if I were to walk into my basement in a new house and it's like all that dirt floor and chains.
Reminds me of my Nana's basement because it was all dirt. And I was just like, I hate it.
Nana needs to move.
Nana's dad built the place. So, like, I understood, but still creepy.
You're like, I'm not a fan of this. I'm not a fan. We will have to also pick out a next movie. I know you want to do Saw 10.
Yes, Saw 10.
And then we're going to do Carnage for a book. Yep. Because that'll be out October 31st.
5 Nights.
5 Nights at Freddy's.
And then I'll have to look at another. I have... This whole month for October, I'm reading nothing but spooky books. So I've already read a few. But now I'm on to, I don't know, I'm picking out another book. I just finished Maggie's Grave, which was actually really good. I really enjoyed that book.
I'll put that one
down. Yes, Maggie's Grave. It's on Kindle Unlimited. It is based in Scotland, and it's like a folklore, but it was gruesome. It was gory. So, but I really enjoyed it. So, yes.
Awesome. Well, I know we have a little list going. We got 2 movies, 2 books. We'll keep looking at the movies that come out too. Oh, yeah. So, I watched Reptile last night with Justin Timberlake. Uh-huh.
We need to have a night of like just B-rated movies.
You know, okay, well, what led me down this path was it was in the top 10 on Netflix, and I'm like, I don't really have anything to watch, fine. And then I saw TikTok, and it was like, this movie's getting slammed, but it's actually really good.
Good, yeah.
And then I went over to Rotten Tomatoes. The critics gave it a 35. Yeah. My threshold is 30. It's pretty fucking low. Yeah. The viewers gave it an 80. So I was like, okay, it's gotta have some good to it. I was like, wasted 2 hours and 20 minutes of my life last night. You know me, we're very like specific with our movies. So I'm like, okay, we've got like at least 2 movies and at least 2 books, but we need more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, all the movies.
Oh, we have our list. We have an Excel. We have, like, we're going to go through them. And
we'll find ones.
Yes.
And I mean, we could even do, like, Queen of the Damned. Yeah. Because that was one that, like, I haven't watched. Like,
I love that movie.
She's my horror mama queen. She's introduced me to all of the horror. I used to never watch anything scary. And now I'm like, give it to me. Yep. All of it. So maybe we should do that one too. Yeah. Because that was a good one. And I had questions on that too. I was like,
and I've read the books. Because they're based off of books. It's the Interview with the Vampire books from Anne Rice.
Okay.
So yeah.
All right. Now we got some more.
We got some going.
You can always email us too.
Yep.
What you want us to read or watch. Maybe we will, maybe we won't.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Who knows?
We'll surprise you. But we will be back with Carnage and Saw X and Five Nights at Freddy's. So we're going to have more for you guys.
Yay. It's going to be fun.
And thanks for listening and joining us. And have an awesome week.
Woo woo. Woo. Bye. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to see more from us, you can find us on Instagram at The Midnight Babes Podcast and on TikTok at The Midnight Babes. Stay spooky, friends.